President Yoon Suk-yeol attended the 7th hearing of his impeachment trial today as the Constitutional Court enters the final week of its scheduled hearings. Former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min denied allegations that he was ordered by the president to cut off water and power supplies to certain media organizations on the night when martial law was declared. U.S. President Donald Trump makes it official that 25% tariffs will be imposed on all steel and aluminum products into the U.S. from March. The South Korean authorities held a meeting today for response measures. The Korea Development Institute lowers its economic growth forecast this year to 1.6%, citing political uncertainty and the fallout of Trump's tariffs. It's February 11th, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial resumed on Tuesday with more witnesses testifying at the Constitutional Court. It's the second to last hearing, but the fiery debates are showing no signs of ending soon. We have our correspondent Oh Soo-young live to bring us the latest. Soo-young, the hearing today began with questions over whether President Yoon declared martial law after correct procedures. Let's start with the first witness, former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min.
Sure, Jung-min, good evening to you. Well, former Interior Minister Lee Sang-min appeared to back President Yoon's claims that his martial law was legal against assertions that Yoon had bypassed cabinet procedures required before declaring the decree. And previously, acting president and former finance minister Choi Sang-mok had said that there had not been a formal cabinet meeting beforehand and that he hadn't seen Defense Minister Kim Yong-yeon recommend the decree to the Prime Minister as per the constitutional requirement for martial law. Now, he said while it wasn't scheduled as a cabinet meeting, around 7 members initially gathered and waited for the 11-member quorum to be filled. He said those present would have considered themselves to be in a cabinet meeting. Also, in direct contradiction with prosecutors' records, he denied that he'd asked the National Fire Agency to cut water and power to news organizations and said he did not receive such orders from Yoon. While the former minister said he tried to dissuade the president from declaring martial law, he understood where the decision came from. Yoon himself took to reiterate his claim that the opposition Democratic Party has sabotaged the administration by constantly impeaching officials and, crucially, cutting the government budget.
도대체 제가 대통령으로서 야당이 아무리 저를 공격하더라도 왜 대화와 타협을 안 하겠습니다. 야당을 설득해서 뭐를 해보려고 한 건데 이 문명 국가에서 도대체 현대사에서 볼 수 없는 이런 줄타내기라고 하는 것은 이거는 대단히 악의적인 거고 이거는 대화와 타협을 하겠다는 것이 아니라 그냥 이 정권을 파괴시키는 것이 우리의 목표라고 하는 것을 명확히 보여주는 겁니다.
Yoon added he believed the martial law proclamation could be signed off on afterwards, given the highly sensitive nature of the decree. National Security Advisor Shin Won-sik also indicated that a cabinet meeting had been held, saying that he'd been told that it was ongoing by Yoon's Chief of Staff Chung Jin-seok. Questions for the third and fourth witnesses focused on election fraud allegations raised by Yoon as a pretext for declaring martial law. Former Third Deputy Director of the National Intelligence Service, Baek Jong-wook, and the National Election Commission's Secretary General, they answered questions regarding this, and Peg said that the service had seemed vulnerable to external attack to the point of a social crisis, he said, but he wouldn't comment on election fraud as the service hadn't been examined for related irregularities. The Election Commission Secretary General Kim Yong-bin also stood witness. He said that he hadn't been made aware of any false voting ballots and said various inspections had been conducted ahead of the general election last year and that it would be virtually impossible to replicate ballots.
Meanwhile, the court has yet to decide on additional hearings beyond the final and 8th hearing this coming Thursday.
Yes, so in order to formally conclude the hearings, the judges would have to listen to the closing arguments by both legal teams, as well as President Yoon's final statement. Now, this, I think, would take around 2 to 3 hours, and given that 4 witness statements are planned for Thursday, it's quite unlikely that the justices will wrap up the hearings then. Experts say more witnesses are likely to be summoned as some of the main testimonies we've heard so far have caused more confusion due to discrepancies with previous statements made in prosecutorial records or conflicting narratives between witnesses. While the court has emphasised its commitment to a speedy trial, there's been concern that the back-to-back witness questioning twice a week doesn't allow much time for a thorough review of the testimonies or evidence. Still, the opposition has called for a quick end to the trial, saying that the evidence is already out there.
Our patience is wearing thin. How much longer must we put up with the baseless conspiracy theories about election fraud? There's already been enough consideration given to the respondent through this week's witness examination. We hope for a swift conclusion to the proceedings.
All right, that was our Oh Soo-young on the president's impeachment trial. As promised, U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday put into action his intentions to impose a 25% blanket tariff on all steel and aluminum imports starting next month, which will affect South Korea as well. Park Go-nu has more.
U.S. President Donald Trump signed an executive order at the White House on Monday to impose new 25% tariffs on steel and aluminum imports, set to be effective from March 12th.
It's 25% without exceptions or exemptions. If it's made in the United States, there is no tariff. All you have to do is make it in the United States.
The White House also noted countries including South Korea that were exempt from tariffs during Trump's first administration will now be subject to them. South Korea was the 4th largest steel and aluminum exporter to the U.S. last year. Trump also warned on Monday of the possibility of imposing tariffs on items including automobiles and chips, exports that are critical to South Korea's economy. On top of South Korea, Asian countries including China, which are also among the largest trading partners, according to 2024 data from the U.S. Department of Commerce, are set to be affected. However, in other parts of the world, Trump is considering exemptions for Australia given that the U.S. has a trade surplus with the country due to its significant purchases of U.S. aircraft. Nonetheless, Trump's move is raising fears over the impact of an escalating trade war. Canada, the country that exports the most steel and aluminum to the U.S., and another major trading partner, Mexico, are expected to be among the worst hit. Trump's latest announcement follows plans revealed by the U.S. president the day before to set reciprocal tariffs on countries that tax goods imported from the U.S. Trump said those measures will be implemented in the next few days, adding that he is unconcerned about potential retaliation. That has prompted a strong warning from the European Union.
We stand against unjustified barriers to free and fair trade. We will always take the necessary steps to protect our economic interests, as well as European businesses, workers and consumers from unjustified tariff measures.
While describing the tariffs as unlawful and economically counterproductive, Olaf Jill, the European Commission spokesman, also said the EU remains committed to constructive talks with the U.S. to find mutually beneficial solutions. Park Go-nu, Arirang News.
As South Korea braces for the impact of U.S. tariffs, top officials gathered today to assess possible damage and discuss the next steps, including negotiations with Washington. Our Kim Jong-sil reports.
The South Korean government is on high alert as the U.S. moves forward with a 25% tariff on imported steel and aluminum, a move that could hit key industries hard. Following the U.S. announcement, top officials in Seoul met on Tuesday to discuss response measures.
While we are concerned about the decline in profitability for our industry, we also see opportunities in a fair, competitive environment. We will work closely with the industry to strengthen its competitiveness.
The government said it will also push for last-minute negotiations.
With some time left until March 12th, we will actively engage in negotiations with the US to ensure our interests are fully reflected.
South Korea had previously faced export limits instead of tariffs, but with the new policy, those restrictions will also be lifted on March 12th.
From calculations done in a report by an analyst in Citibank, this should affect Korea's GDP, reduce Korea's GDP by 0.1 to 0.2%. But because the quota has been removed, the damage from tariffs should be less than 0.2% of the GDP.
With Trump hinting at tariffs on autos and semiconductors, experts warn negotiations must be strategic.
Because Trump has threatened many other tariffs on other goods such as automobiles and pharmaceuticals, for full negotiation, we should wait until we know exactly what range of goods that U.S. will put tariffs on.
Officials say they will closely monitor U.S. trade moves and coordinate responses with Japan and the EU. With time running out, South Korea faces tough choices to protect its export-driven economy. Kim Jong-sil, Arirang News.
The South Korean economy is forecast to grow 1.6% this year. Now, this is according to a state-run think tank following a downward revision to reflect the prolonged political paralysis here and the broader market ramifications of Trump tariffs. Our correspondent Moon Hae-ryun with the details.
South Korea's economic growth projection for the year has been slashed on the back of rising uncertainties with U.S. trade tariffs and continued political instability in the country. In its outlook published on Tuesday, the state-run Korea Development Institute forecast the economy to grow 0.9% in the first half of 2025 and 2.2% in the second half, bringing the annual growth rate to 1.6%. That's down by 0.4 percentage points from its previous forecast of 2% released in November. This is lower than forecasts from major institutions such as the OECD at 2.1%, but similar to the Bank of Korea's projection of 1.6 to 1.7%. The agency noted that the prolonged slump in domestic demand exacerbated by political turmoil in the country, combined with a slowdown in exports, is weighing down on economic growth. The construction sector remains in recession while the service sector struggles to recover. Despite strong semiconductor demand, the goods exports were revised down from 1.9% to 1.5%, reflecting deteriorating trade conditions. Weak domestic demand is, however, likely to limit inflationary pressure, keeping the KDI's consumer price inflation forecast at 1.6%. It is also expected to affect the labor market as sluggish domestic demand limits job growth. These projections, however, come with the KDI assuming that U.S. trade restrictions under the Trump administration would be implemented gradually. The faster-than-expected policy moves have significantly increased uncertainty.
If trade tensions under Trump escalate further or political instability drags on longer than expected, growth could fall below the 1.6% we've projected.
That being said, the agency pointed out that tariffs on steel and aluminium are unlikely to have a great impact on the country's GDP growth.
Steel and aluminium make up about 0.8% of our total exports to the US, so in the grand scheme of things, it's not a huge portion of our overall portions. If the tariffs do go into effect, these industries would take a significant hit, but in terms of GDP, we don't expect the impact to be that substantial.
With weak consumption, slowing exports and persistent uncertainty both at home and abroad, the KDI's latest outlook signals that the country's economic recovery remains vulnerable. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Chinese President Xi Jinping has reportedly accepted a Russian invitation to its Victory Day celebrations that are poised to take place in May. North Korea's Kim Jong-un has been also invited to this event. Our Foreign Affairs correspondent Bae Eun-ji has more.
Leaders of Russia and China vowed to further develop their partnership throughout this year in a video call last month, with Putin addressing Xi as his dear friend.
It is safe to say that foreign policy ties and joint work between Russia and China objectively play an important and stabilizing role in international affairs.
In the new year, I'm willing to work with you to continue guiding China-Russia relations to a new height in 2025, to respond to external uncertainties with the stability and resilience of China-Russia ties.
Citing Russian ambassador to China, Igor Morgulov, Russia's TASS news agency reported Monday local time that Chinese President Xi Jinping has accepted Russia's invitation to attend a Victory Day ceremony, marking the 80th anniversary of the Soviet contribution to victory over Nazi Germany in World War II. The ambassador also reportedly said that Xi, in return, has invited Putin to China for its own commemoration of the end of World War II, scheduled for September. Although China has yet to officially confirm Xi's visit to Russia, if he does decide to attend, it will be the first time in 10 years for a Chinese leader to take part in the event. The Kremlin told TASS that preparations are already underway for Xi's visit to Moscow and Putin's trip to Beijing. Earlier in December, the Kremlin said it had invited leaders of many countries to attend the 80th anniversary of the end of the war, and that includes North Korea. This means that there is a possibility that the leaders of Beijing, Moscow, and Pyongyang may hold talks to seek ways to push back against U.S. President Donald Trump. So eyes are now on whether the three countries will further strengthen their relations and work together to pressure the United States. 배은지, Arirang News.
Elsewhere, the Gaza ceasefire agreement between Israel and Hamas looks to have become even more fragile, as Hamas intends to postpone the release of Israeli hostages who were expected to return home on Saturday. Cha Yoon-kyung has the latest.
The military spokesman for Hamas Al-Qassam Brigades, Abu Obaida, announced on Monday that the release of the Israeli hostages this coming Saturday will be postponed until further notice, accusing Israel of violating the terms of Gaza ceasefire agreement. Obaida said Israel has been delaying the return of the displaced to the northern Gaza Strip, targeting Gaza with shelling and gunfire, and not allowing relief supplies of all kinds to enter as agreed upon. Israel has refuted the claims and instead, according to the Times of Israel, blames the militant group for violating the ceasefire agreement. Israeli Defense Minister Israel Katz also announced on Monday that he had instructed his military to prepare at the highest level of alert for any possible scenario in Gaza. In response, the Hostage and Missing Families Forum said it stands with the Israeli government and encourages maintaining the conditions that will ensure the safe return of 76 brothers and sisters. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu also moved up a political security cabinet meeting originally scheduled for Tuesday evening after the Hamas announcement. Meanwhile, U.S. President Donald Trump on Monday local time urged Israel to cancel its ceasefire deal with Hamas and, quote-unquote, let all hell break out if Hamas does not return hostages held in Gaza by noon on Saturday. In a wide-ranging session with reporters in the Oval Office, Trump said he wanted the hostages released at once instead of a few at a time. The three-phase ceasefire deal between Israel and Hamas has been in place in Gaza since last month. However, tensions are escalating as both sides are accusing each other of the violation of agreement. Cha Yoon-kyung, Arirang News.
In other news, young entrepreneurs from overseas are opting to start their business ventures here in Korea. Our An Sung-jin tells us why.
8 years ago, former Samsung employee Pankaj Agarwal started his own business here in South Korea. Now that business has dozens of employees across 2 countries.
My journey started with Samsung in Korea, and in Samsung there's a program called C-Lab that gave me a chance to spin off my company, and very naturally, from an employee at Samsung, we became an independent company.
He chose Seoul as the base for his edutech startup. Then what are some of the opportunities that a lot of foreign entrepreneurs see in Korea, whether it be perks, or what are some of the characteristics or the reasons as to why foreign entrepreneurs would find Korea as an attractive destination?
I think Korea is very unique in that there are a lot of support programs. The government makes sure that the startups have a lot of opportunities because, startups are always afraid. For example, for us, our first office was sponsored by Korean government.
Pankaj says basing his business in Korea has helped in other ways too.
And what I really benefited most from Korea, being in Korea, is the Korea brand. There is K-pop, there is K-drama, and now I say, why not K-education? And hence, I want to create something. In fact, in this case, I want to create a successful venture that can help showcase Korea's image in the world, that a foreigner entrepreneur can really build a billion-dollar business from Korea.
U.S. consultancy startup Genome has ranked Seoul's startup ecosystem 9th out of 300 cities around the world. And to help startups get off the ground, the Ministry of SMEs provides special programs to help foreign entrepreneurs settle and grow their businesses, including assistance with visa process, business development funds, and other support.
So far, we've mostly focused on helping Korean startups expand. But in order to foster a startup ecosystem in Korea, we figured it's also important to host foreign entrepreneurs and startups and garner talents from abroad to Korea.
More global entrepreneurs are choosing Korea as a place to start their business. And this Global Startup Center also facilitates market entry for these companies through patent and administrative support or corporate partnership matching.
Korea was the one offering the biggest ecosystem, the most developed infrastructures, and the best opportunities as well. I would say that the visa process was actually very smooth.
Always able to ask other entrepreneurs how they are managing their startup entrepreneurial life in Korea. And yes, so we can accelerate this business here much faster than.
The beginning of a startup involves struggles such as finding resources and investment. That's why efforts from the government and other stakeholders could be the catalyst for attracting global entrepreneurs and sustaining a healthy startup ecosystem for Korea. An Song-jin, Arirang News.
Moving on to the Winter Asian Games currently being held in Harbin, China. Ekaterina Avvakumova today won South Korea's first ever Winter Asia biathlon gold medal. She won the women's 7.5-kilometer sprint race. Avvakumova became a Korean citizen in 2016 after moving from Russia. Biathlon is a sport that combines cross-country skiing and rifle shooting. In speed skating, Lee Seung-hoon, Chung Jae-won, and Park Sang-won won silver, finishing behind China in the men's team pursuit. Park Ji-woo, Chung Yuna, and Kim Yoon-ji claimed bronze in the women's team pursuit. Cha Min-gyu won silver in the men's 1,000 meters, while Lee Na-hyun won bronze in the women's 1,000 meters. All of the cold wave warnings have been lifted as the bitter cold exceeds the country. However, uninvited dust has made a return. The Seoul metropolitan area, Gangwon-do province, and the Chungcheong-do provinces will see bad levels of ultrafine dust on Wednesday. Rain will begin tonight on the west coast of Jeollanam-do province and Jeju Island. Rain and snow are expected across the country tomorrow. Especially it will snow strongly from dawn into morning tomorrow. Please be careful on the way to work.
Seoul will start at 0 degrees tomorrow morning, and Chuncheon and Gyeongju at -3 degrees. Gwangju will move up to 9 degrees and 12 degrees in Busan. Tomorrow night, which is Jeongwoldae Boreum, you'll be able to see the full moon through the clouds. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
And that is Newscenter for tonight. Thanks for watching. A panel session up next.
My name is Veronica and I'm the co-founder of the K-beauty brand Yoda.
My name is Sander and I'm the co-founder of Yoda. So I'm half Korean, half Dutch, and I traveled to Korea once a year to visit my family in Korea.
When we started traveling together to Korea, I immediately was captured by the insane beauty culture there. There were so many stores, so many cool products, a lot of things that I never saw in Europe before. So at some point we started talking about it and decided maybe it's a good idea to not bring suitcases back to Europe, but to really build a brand for K-beauty for the European market.
I think the Korean beauty industry is a lot ahead in terms of innovation, in terms of new formulation, in terms of new product development. And next to that, Korean beauty is also known for using more natural ingredients into their formulations, instead of only harsh chemical ingredients.
So all of our products are developed and manufactured in Korea, so it was important to us to show this also in the look and feel of the brand. For instance, in packaging design, incorporating Hangul in the logo, bojagi for special occasions. Our customers were asking for some gift wrapping, and we knew the idea of bojagi from Korea, so we thought it's a cute idea to bring both worlds together.
I think for me, it was always very special to bring Korean culture, Korean heritage with a brand in Yoda and share that actually with European consumers. We try to also bring a little bit of Korean retail into Paris, into Rome, into Milan with our stores. So they don't look like traditional European stores, but it feels a bit like entering in Seoul with the photo booth, but also with all the products being more colorful and more cute.
I think it's truly magical that K-beauty can be loved by so many people around the world and really connect people in their shared love for K-beauty.
K-beauty is spreading across Europe and becoming part of our daily life.
keep
Welcome to Within the Frame, where we bring the most pressing issues across the globe into focus. I'm Kim Mo-gyun. The global AI landscape is undergoing a seismic shift with the emergence of DeepSeek's groundbreaking generative AI model, RI, which has sent shockwaves across the tech industry. Developed by China-based startup DeepSeek, R1 is being hailed as a formidable competitor to OpenAI's models, showcasing unprecedented performance despite being built with just a fraction of the budget typically required for such large-scale AI projects. What sets DeepSeek apart is its open source approach and the use of cost-effective, older generation hardware, a strategy that challenges the traditional AI development model and opens new doors for innovation. In today's Within the Frame, we explore the impact of DeepSeek R1 on the global AI market and its implications for the future of the AI industry. And for this, we invite Sung-Soo Eric Kim, adjunct professor at Yonsei Graduate School of Business. Welcome, Professor.
Thank you for having me.
And also joining us via Skype is Ashik Kudabuksh, assistant professor of software engineering at Rochester Institute of Technology. Great to have you with us.
Thank you for having me on your show.
So let's begin right away with Professor Kudabuksh. The Chinese open source AI model DeepSeek R1, like I said, was released on January 20th, and its low-cost, high-performance technology has shocked the global AI market. As an AI expert, how would you assess the performance of this latest technology and also China's AI capabilities?
So I haven't gotten the chance to play around with DeepSeek R1 firsthand yet, but what I read about its performance, it's very impressive, and it's, I would say, slightly worse than OpenAI's O3 Mini. But when we talk about performance, there are a couple of things to keep in mind. For example, whenever these new models are released, their performances are optimized on the existing benchmarks. So we need more rigorous testing to know how on unseen benchmark datasets DeepSeek R1 would perform. As of now, its performance is pretty good. Then the second thing is when we think about if it's cost effective or high performance, there are a couple of other factors we need to think about. For example, if someone is using DeepSeek R1 through API access, of course, the amount it is charging per token is significantly less than other solutions. But suppose there are two different models, and you ask the same question to both these models, and both of them gave a comparably high-quality answer, but one of them, say, uses 10 or 20 words to give their response, and the other one, say, uses 100 or 200 words. So those kind of factors will come into play, figuring out which one is cost-effective from the perspective of the end user. And the second thing is the API availability could be a factor on in deciding if it can be used for time-sensitive, high-stakes scenario. And finally, I am a researcher focusing on AI safety. And typically what I have seen that whenever a new model arrives, it takes a while to know what are some of the corner cases or what are some of the limitations. Bias audits take actually time to do. In one of our recent papers last year, we observed there are shocking anti-Semitism, racism, and misogyny in many well-known models from, say, Google's Palm 2 or Mistral AI. And those kind of biases were not known up until we did the study, and it took a while to conduct those kind of studies. So it takes a while to do this kind of rigorous testing. So my quick answer is it's impressive, but we need more rigorous testing. And coming back to China's AI capability, as a graduate student and as an assistant professor, I have come across many amazingly talented Chinese students and colleagues. So I'm not at all surprised that their AI capabilities are amazing.
Right. So as of now, with the information that we have, the most noteworthy part is that DeepSeek R1 was reportedly developed in just 2 months, with 10% of the research funds of big tech companies. Unlike the closed AI models developed by American big tech companies like OpenAI, DeepSeek has adopted an open source approach. Professor, could you tell us what is the significance of this difference?
First, I'd like to say that it's difficult to accurately verify how much resources were required to build DeepSeek. But I'm a very strong champion of open science. And also one more point that DeepSeek had the advantage of second mover's advantage. Like when you have an amazing solution coming from OpenAI, you know that it can be done. Then the question changes a little bit, shifts towards how can we do that in a more efficient way, right? So those two things aside, I would say that I'm a huge fan of open science, and it's a great initiative. Many open models from, say, Meta's Llama or Mistral AI's Mistral, they have been extremely useful for researchers. And as an AI for social good researcher, I think open models and open science is a great initiative. It democratizes AI resources for other people, for smaller academic labs, startups, groups from all across the globe. They can actually use these technologies for and foster even further innovation. On the other side, I would say that when you think about these models, these are extremely powerful models. So in some way, you can make also a case for API-only restricted access, because if you have access to model weights, you can actually design substantially more powerful attacks to exploit model vulnerabilities. So in some sense, having closed API access also has a point, but as an AI for social good researcher, I would say that open science is a great initiative.
Right. Now let's also bring in Professor Kim into the conversation. So, Professor, what kind of impact will this competition between open AI and closed source of AI development approaches have on the industry itself? And do you think the spread of this open source method could be an opportunity for South Korea?
So this technical strategy that OpenAI is pursuing is they're trying to build a entry barrier for technology to protect their proprietary technology. While DeepSeek was very surprising because they chose an open innovation strategy, opening the technology to the public so that anyone can contribute to the innovation of their model and also can enjoy the fruits from their technological development. The advantage of an open innovation strategy will be that they can possibly standardize the technological, standards that they wish to pursue in the AI field. And I think that this has a really good, impact to Korean companies because Korean companies cannot afford the, huge capital in the R&D to develop very, very expensive R&D models. But with this open source technology, they can dramatically reduce the development costs for AI, and the possibility of commercializing AI products become a reality now. So in that aspect, it's a competition between OpenAI and DeepSeek in the technological strategy domain of how to win against each other to commercialize and widespread their technological standards.
Mm-hmm. So with this situation, despite, there's a lot of restrictions on China, and DeepSeek is a Chinese company, like we've said, there's a lot of restrictions on this country, but China's AI technology seems to be accelerating more and more. Do you think this means that U.S. sanctions have not been quite effective? And what's your outlook on the power struggle between Washington and Beijing?
So I think that what President Biden mentioned during the Washington doctrine between Yoon and Biden 2 years ago was very symbolic. He responded to a journalist asking whether the AI Chips Act is trying to protect the proprietary technology of the United States against China. He said that he made it really clear that U.S. invented semiconductors and they choose which country to manufacture semiconductors. So in that sense, that's the logic of the United States, and that's the reason why they're trying to protect the important resources to develop AI. But what we have to understand is, although governments try to put sanctions on industries, the role of companies are to innovate despite the difficult environments. Innovation comes from overcoming regulatory environments and market environments. So what was very symbolic and also very surprising was that DeepSeek claims, it's not confirmed, but they claim that they were able to develop a AI model that is one-tenth of the training cost of Silicon Valley tech leaders, and also with only $5.67 million US, which is the annual salary of just a couple of best AI scientists. So I think that symbolizes that the AI competition will be severe. And although one country would like to restrict the AI development of the other country, they will also always find innovative ways of how to develop AI. And that's also proven through the technological history. If we look at the history, initially, there's a huge resource and capital allocated to the first mover. But the second mover chases the first mover with a much lesser resource, a lesser capital. That's just the process of technological innovation. So it's going to be a huge struggle between the United States and China, but it's always a matter of who makes it more cheaper and more powerful. So that determines who will win the race, I would say.
Right, so cost efficiency is definitely a key in this situation. But mentioning about restrictions, governments around the world, including South Korea, are ramping up efforts to block this use of DeepSeek. Professor Kotaboksh, the ongoing debate about data leakage with generative AI is a concern, but why have countries only taken action specifically against DeepSeek?
So there are a couple of things to keep in mind, that when OpenAI came into picture, OpenAI partnered with Microsoft, and Microsoft has decades of goodwill and trust. So that could be one of the reasons people were more at ease with sharing and data with and using OpenAI systems. The second factor that comes into play is that as we are understanding LLMs, understanding LLM security and safety issues, it's an evolving process. And that the more we are learning about it, the more we are being aware of what kind of privacy concern, data leakage, those things can happen. Like if, say, people share a lot of private information with an LLM, and then eventually an LLM is trained on those kind of prompt and response pairs, even if the developers are well-meaning, there could be privacy leakage, there could be security issues. So the understanding of security is also becoming more clearer, so people are becoming more worried about sharing and sharing private data. And then the third thing is, if you think about it, whenever there is an AI system that's being built on right now, the most important asset is the data. So it's quite clear that when there is a competition, all the parties will become much more guarded about it. And also, we do not have the counterfactual. Like suppose we had another similarly capable model, say from India. So if we have like two different models coming from country A and country B, and the rest of the countries are reacting to one of the models differently from another model, then we have a better understanding of how the competition is evolving and how people are reacting to just like one generative AI system. There could be other public policy implications, but as an AI expert, I won't be able to comment on them better. A public policy expert will be able to discuss the political implications much better than me.
Right, so the way that people are reacting to the specific AI means something, you mean, right?
Yes.
Signals something. And the Trump administration has pursued forward with a $500 billion AI infrastructure investment project called Stargate. Professor, what kind of impact do you think the emergence of DeepSeek have on Trump's AI policy direction like Stargate?
Stargate is a grand vision to tackle some of the major infrastructural challenges we will be facing in building robust AI systems. Building high throughput, high performance AI systems that requires a lot of resources like electricity, land, and water. So Stargate's broad vision will not be significantly altered by one generative AI system coming from DeepSeek. But that said, if there is a resource efficient way to do something, then the whole world actually benefits from that. And if the government is willing to spend $500 billion and you have more resource efficient ways to achieve things, then you can do even so much more, right? And Trump administration is now at a very early stage, but it's already quite clear that President Trump's administration places a lot of emphasis on AI. And as an AI researcher, I think that is a great thing. And if the government has such a strong commitment towards building, towards AI growth, then we think we have the potential to bring in revolutionary changes in health, science, and education.
Mm-hmm. But amid this, strong competition from China, Professor Kim, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman visited South Korea last week, and he made clear that he wants to, expand its presence here in the Korean market. Why is he specifically targeting the Korean companies?
Well, first of all, I think he really likes Korea. I've seen him visiting many, many times over the past couple of years. Korea is, I think, a really good size of economy to test and the technological frontier because we have strong IT companies. And the characteristics of our IT services is that it's mostly monopolized or it's a oligopoly. So meaning that the market size is larger enough for rolling out these AI models, while we still have more to advance in LLM models where we do not have our strongest LLM to apply. Some companies like Naver have Naver Clova, which are really strong in LLM, but other companies do not have those technologies. So that's I think, the bridge where OpenAI can find a commercial case of innovation. And I think that the dialogue between Kakao and OpenAI was meaningful in that domain. They've probably found mutual benefits of collaborating between those two tech leaders in each country. So I think that OpenAI will try to find more business cases and technological cooperation in the Korean market.
Mm-hmm. Now, in fact, his meeting with Samsung chairman Lee Jae-yong and SoftBank's Masayoshi Son has garnered much attention, and it's reported that they've talked about Stargate, of course. So if Samsung participates, what role could it play? And do you think it could be a chance for them to, make a comeback?
So when we think about AI, we generally think about NVIDIA because they produce the frontier GPU chips. But if AI technology cannot be developed without data centers, and in order to run high-performance data centers, still memory and foundry is very important, which Samsung Electronics is one of the the biggest players in that market. So Stargate, although it's initially formed between OpenAI, SoftBank, and Oracle, it has, so that's a body, but it has other arms like TSMC and Samsung Electronics that should provide the memory chips. And Samsung Electronics also recently specialized in AI chips. So along with NVIDIA, Samsung Electronics and TSMC, those partners are really important for Stargate to pursue their technological dream. So that's the reason I think that although the busy schedule visiting from Japan to Korea, I think Sam Altman only spent a couple of hours in Korea and left. So, but meeting was really important to pursue those dialogues.
Right, indeed. Now, the global AI industry is facing a dramatic shift to, like I've said, DeepSeek from China. Professor Koreboksh, how do you foresee the future of the AI power struggle? And also, what kind of direction should South Korea's AI-related technologies take from now on?
So what I think that there will be many more players going forward. So, for instance, India had a very successful moon mission a couple years back, and they achieved their mission at a significantly lesser cost than NASA. So I wouldn't be very surprised if there is a very powerful LLM that comes from India. And one of the biggest challenges in India is multilinguality. There is a lot of linguistic diversity. So the model from India could be extremely capable in handling multilinguality and efficient and resource efficient. Because if we go by the moon mission success of India, it wouldn't be too surprising to see that. The second thing that could happen is that if there is a closed model that performs really well, we would see that there could be open models with very similar capabilities coming soon after that, similar to DeepSeek, what we have seen so far. And in that way, I would say that even if a closed model achieves something great, that still has an inspirational angle. For instance, when no one could run 1 mile in less than 4 minutes, no one knew that if it is humanly possible to run 1 mile in less than 4 minutes. After Roger Bannister successfully did that, then many people could actually follow these footsteps and ran a mile in less than 4 minutes. So in that way, I would say that ChatGPT, when it first came, it was a defining moment in AI and NLP tech space because it showed something that it can be done. And then there has been a lot of enthusiasm after that. So even if a closed model performs really well, comes up with amazing capabilities, I think that's a great thing. And then open models will probably just follow suit and create something. And thinking about Korea's AI growth, I think it will be good to have homegrown LLMs or like a homegrown LLM ecosystem, because there are many use cases where cultural understanding of the LLMs could be critical. And one application just comes to my mind immediately is, say, mental health support. In that case, if an LLM is culturally grounded, then it will probably be able to support in a much better and efficient and empathetic way. So if Korea invests more in a homegrown AI ecosystem, that would be great, I think.
All right, so we will look forward to that. I'm afraid we'll have to leave our discussion right here. Professor Kim, thank you so much. And also Professor Kudabaksh, of course. It was a discussion with a complex topic, but both of you did so much great job in breaking this down and giving us a clear picture of the situation for us. Thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot for this opportunity.
And that'll be all from us on Within the Frame. Be sure to tune in next time as we continue to explore the stories that matter. Till then, stay informed and engaged.
About